Okay. Hello.
Oh, I want to ask you all to keep your microphones off for now. We are going to start the live streaming of the 13th workshop, Tourism Economics and Management. Greetings. And on behalf of the organizing committee of the workshop, I want to welcome all the friends and colleagues who are joining us on Zoom platform and YouTube. I'm Veronica Maia from Universidade Federal Fluminense in Brazil. The workshop Tourism Economics and Management is a traditional scientific meeting that has been a network platform of cooperation for tourism researchers from many countries since 2007. For 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Friday, 29 original research papers will be presented by authors from 12 countries, representing important research centers in tourism in the world. Also, we have participants from a number of countries like China, Italy, Peru, Chile, Spain, Brazil, South Africa, Pakistan, Portugal, Nepal, Colombia, France, Norway, Philippines, Mexico, UK, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and others. Thank all the authors and the members of our organizing committee. Sandra Zapata, Bibiana Lanzilota, Gabriel Brida, Juan Gabriel Brida from Universidade de la República do Uruguai, Professor Natália Porto from Universidade Nacional de La Plata, Professor Glauber Santos from Universidade de São Paulo, and my colleagues Osiris Marques and Mariana Brandão from Universidade Federal Fluminense. Well, Romulo Duarte is the PhD student from São Paulo University that will be in our sessions. He is our assistant and will be collecting the questions on Zoom and YouTube chats. If you have any question, please use the chat, always informing your full name, affiliation, and the author to whom the question is addressed. I ask also the Zoom participants to please mute your microphones when not speaking and maintain your cameras on if possible. Well, now I invite Professor Juan Gabriel Brida from Universidade de la República do Uruguay to start the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and welcome to the virtual workshop. We hope next time we have it in a presential form. And I am starting this session with the co-chair will be Viviana Lanzilota, because I cannot stay for the whole session. So this time we organized the workshop with some longer presentations and short presentations. So in this case, this session will have half an hour for each paper. So I asked the authors to present, let's say, maximum 25 minutes, okay? Preferably 20 minutes in order to have some 10 minutes for discussion and comments and so on. I am right, Romulo? Is it the case, no?
Yes.
Okay, so we start with Pilar Martinez. No, with they will present a paper together with Isabel Albaladejo and Fuenzana. The three are from the University of Murcia. So Pilar, welcome to the workshop, and please start.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation, Gabriel. Well, now I am going to share my screen. Okay, can I? Yes, I can. I can. Well, here it is. Okay. Well, This is a theoretical study. I am going to put full screen. This is okay. Well, it is a work in progress. We are working in a model of 2 competing destinations in order to give a spatial component to the Turing's area life cycle theory. No? It is a work in progress. I am going to present the first result, but we need to do a bit more for completing the paper. But nevertheless, the model can be presented right now. It is, and it is a pleasure for me presenting it, this first work here. Well, what is the motivation? Well, tourists are consumers. Tourists are consumers that should move into a destination to consume touring services, but also local goods, which usually are not internationally traded. And well, in the same way, tourism firms have to move also into one destination to produce touring services. We can think in international route flights or in foreign direct investment. Foreign capital invest in tourism firms in a destination if they gain some profit. So an increase in the number of tourists in one destination increases its value for the tourism industry, attracting more firms. And in the same way, a higher number of firms offer a higher variety of tourism services and increase the attractiveness for tourists to visit in this country. So this virtuous cycle should be taken into account, and it is what we want to do right now with this model. And it should be taken into account because sometimes there are countries, let's say, for example, Spain, where we are, that has a predominant position in the tourism market. And if his position in this virtuous cycle is lost, maybe we can have difficulties, and this is what can happen now with this COVID, with this virus, that maybe some changes in the market and some strategies of our competing destinations can make that we lose our position at the tourist market. So this is the main motivation of this paper. Well, of the model that we are constructing. Well, what about the literature? I am not going to give a comprehensive revision of the literature, but everybody knows the Turing's area life cycle theory by Butler in 1980s. And this theory argues for the evolution of the number of tourists in a destination as an easy-shaped curve. Is it a curve that it has a maximum of the evolution? It has early stages, and then the destination develops till its maximum level, because it is assumed that the tourism's carrying capacity is constant. And also this theory doesn't take into account the interaction with other destinations. So it assumes that the destination is isolated. So these are 2 assumptions that can be relaxed. And this is what we do in this paper. The literature has defined the carrying capacity in different ways. It is known that it is affected by environmental, economic, and social conditions, but also it is affected, and this is what we do in this model, it is affected by tourism industry conditions and by the evolution of the competing destinations. This is what we do in this paper. The carrying capacity is assumed not constant, and it can increase or decrease depending on the evolution of the tourism industry and depending on how firms' capital move from one destination to the other. So we present a theoretical joint analysis of the evolution of a tourism destination, taking into account that we have competing destinations and that capital can move from one destination to the other. This is what we do. Well, this is especially important now in this COVID-19 area. Because tourist destinations are not isolated, and any change in a destination, an increase in the supply, an increase in the number of arrivals may affect the evolution of similar or competing destinations. And this happened with the opponents of the Arab Spring. Remember, in the north of Africa, in those times, Spain receives a huge amount of tourists that changes their destination. So what happened in other competing destinations is very important for knowing what is going to happen in our own home. So this happened in the Arab Spring, but also it can happen now with the limitations imposed to control the pandemic, because different countries are setting different sanitary conditions. Curfews, limited capacity, social distance, they differ between countries. Countries has different incidence rates and also different vaccination rates. And all of these are going to have consequences on the choice of tourists, how tourists chose to go one destination or the other, and also has consequences on firms' their location. Maybe there are firms that are thinking to give their capital to other places, to other destinations. And this is what we take into account in this model. Well, our model is a model with two destinations, J1 and 2. Touring firms need local labor, which is a mobile and immobile factor, to produce touring services, but also capital, which is a mobile factor. And this touring sector is assumed to have increasing returns to scale and also monopolistic competition. We are going to explain this later on. Each destination counts on the production also of an homogeneous notable good, which is consumed with touring services. And the technology of this good is assumed as simple as possible, constant returns to scale. In labor is the unique input, and perfect competition. The technology is as simple as possible. The natural beauty of the destination, the local notable good, and also the variety of touring services will determine the destination choice of tourists. Capital move into one destination or the other, but also for simplicity, we assume that its owners, the owner of this capital, spends its reward in a different third country, the rest of the world, which is where the tourists came from. Okay, this is for simplicity. Our models, despite for this last assumption, has many similarities with the Footloose capital model of the new economic literature, new economic geography literature. Well, this is the basic element of the model. Well, let's see more closely how the tourists behave. This is the utility function, the tourist welfare. It depends in destination one, tourist in destination one. The sub-index one means the country where we are. The similar expressions are for country two. The utility of countries the utility of tourists depends on the attractiveness of the destination, its natural or cultural attractiveness. Also, the consumption of a compositive, these are the tourist goods, tourist services. The variety of tourist services is N1, and sigma is higher than 1, meaning that tourist likes variety. A tourist likes variety. So as if it increases the variety of touring services, the utility of our tourists increase. Also, we have an homogeneous good, H1, and also the tourist congestion, which is the number of tourists divided by the carrying capacity, which is a key element in our model. It is affected negatively. Well, later we are going to define how is this carrying capacity. Tourists choose the consumption of tourist services, CI1, And also they choose the quantity of the homogeneous good, the local good, local art, museums, local beaches, craft works, that maximize his utility, and it has a budget. It has a budget. Well, this is the utility of tourists. What about the firms, tourist firms? What about the tourism sector? We have N firms that provide tourism services, N1 are placed in country 1 and N2 are placed in the second country. These goods are different. We have differentiated tourism services. So the current capacity in country J, in country 1 or country 2, is the addition of all these supply of tourism services. This is the current capacity. So if the number of firms increases in our country, the current capacity of our country is going to increase. So the number of firms in our countries depends on the strategy that our competing countries following. Capital is mobile and labor is immobile, and capital is only employed in meeting the fixed cost of a firm, while all variable costs involve labor. Because we have fixed cost, we have increasing returns to scale in our function, in our production of tourism services. This is the cost function that depends on salaries. This is the reward of capital, the return of capital, P. And there exists free entry of firms in the tourism sector, and firms choose the price that maximizes profit, taking demand as given. For the reason we have monopolistic competition. How capital move from one region to the other, from one country to the other? Well, the mobility of capital is determined by the rate of return. If P1 is higher or lower, is higher than P2, they will move to the first country, or vice versa to the second one if the rate of return is higher. Capital move where the return is higher. This is how firms move and how tourists move, because we have established how is the welfare of tourists, but how they move to one destination or the other, because they can choose if they go to country 1 or country 2. Well, this is tourist mobility equation. These are tourist mobility equations. Well, the number of tourists in country 1 in instant t+1 minus the number of tourists in time t, time is year, for example. So the increment in 1 year, the increment in the number of tourists is the following. The natural rate of the natural birth of new tourists. Gamma is the international growth rate of tourism, plus tourists that in the previous year went to destination 2 and now they change to destination 1, minus those tourists that in the previous year came to our destination and now they choose and go to destination 2. Well, these changes for going to one destination or the other are crucial in our model, and well, it depends on the welfare that tourists receives in visiting one country. Well, how is this change? How tourists change the destination? We have a probability of changing from one destination J to another Y, and this probability depends on several things. Well, this expression that I have written here means that tourists move according to what is called the word of mouth effect, which was described in the Turing's area life cycle theory by Butler. Well, this is the word of mouth effect, and we have a probability of convince to one tourist in destination I to change their destination. And how we define this probability? Obviously, if tourist welfare is high on destination Y, tourists go to this destination. But is it the utility what is important for defining this probability? Well, the utility is important, but tourists also take into account the price index of the destination and the price of the local good. So prices should be taken into account, not only utility, a balance between utility and the prices. No? So what is taken into account for defining this probability is not the utility, is the indirect utility. Is the indirect utility, the utility that reveals the utility once the prices are taken into account. This is the price index of a destination and the price of the local good in a destination. So, and also the natural attraction. So this is the indirect utility that we obtain with our budget. E is our budget. Well, so taking this into account in our probability function, we have to, first of all, we have to note something. If this probability depends only on the attraction, we have one result. On the natural attraction of the destination, we have one result. But if this probability depends on the indirect utility, as we have said, we have another one. What happened in the first case? What happened in the first case? If this probability only depends on the natural attraction of the destination, what we have is the independent easy shape evolution predicted by the Turing's area life cycle model. So it is evolved according to a logistic curve, and it is independent of the other destination. It only depends on my natural attractiveness. And we have the predicted behavior by the tag theory. But what happens if this probability depends not on the natural attractiveness, but on the indirect utility? Then both destinations interact. And now what we have is an interconnected dynamical system, or what we have called an spatial talk, an spatial Turing's area life cycle. ST is the share of tourists in destination one, and Sn is the share of tourists, of the share of firms in destination one. They move, and they, this is the derivative. They increment if the indirect utility in destination one is higher than it is in destination two, and the number of firms in destination one increase if the return in country one is higher than the rate of return in country two. This is the basic model. This is our basic model. And in this basic model, we have two steady states. We have two agglomeration equilibria. Either all the tourists or all the firms goes to destination one, this is one case, or all of them goes to destination two. And both agglomerated equilibria are locally stable, regardless which of them has a higher natural attraction. It doesn't matter which is the natural attraction of the destination. Both equilibria, both agglomeration equilibria are equally locally stable. So what is important is are the initial conditions where we are. Which are the initial conditions of this system? We will move to one destination or the other. And well, the basin of attraction enlarge. The basin of attraction enlarge if the basin of attraction enlarge with the natural attraction and also with the supply of goods, and reduce with the wages and the prices. Look here, I have here this. Can you see this? This picture? I have moved from the PDF to this picture. Here we have the dynamical system. Now, if this is the two steady state. We have here the agglomeration in country two, the agglomeration in country one. And well, this is the basin of attraction of one or the other destination, okay? What happens if we increase the attraction of our country one? If we increase the attraction of our country one, what we do is increasing the basin of attraction of our country one. We move to this point, we increase the basin of attraction. On the other side, if we increase the salaries, the prices, and also the price of the homogeneous good, what we are going to do is we are reducing the basin of attraction, and we move now to this other equilibria. Well, this is our basic model. This is our basic model. But what happens if we introduce the conditions that we have now? What happens if we have capacity constraints? For example, countries impose the 50% of the capacity of in restaurants, the 50% of the capacity in museums. Delta is the restriction on the capacity. This restriction on the capacity affects to the rate of returns of capital. Also, decrease the rate of return of capital in our country decrease, but also it affects the indirect utility of tourists that visit this country. So, well, what happened now with the basin of attraction? Well, if delta, instead of being 1, is lower than 1, what we have is now that this point where the both line crosses move upwards. So what we have done is decreasing the basin of attraction of our destination, and it is increasing the basin of attraction of the other country. If we increase also the prices, what we are going to do is increasing even more the attraction of the second destination. Okay, this is what happens if we impose capacity constraints, which is one of the policies that have been implemented in this COVID area. But what happened if instead of implementing capacity constraints, we implement travel restrictions? Imagine that in Spain, we receive a portion of visitors from England, for example, 1 minus fee tourist in our destination comes from England and fee from the rest of the world. And this country, these origin countries discourages or victors our traveling to our country in the next year. Country two don't have any veto, no? What happened in this case? Well, in this case, the basin of attraction of both equilibria are going to change. Well, what happened now? Well, what happened now is that now, look here, despite of having a great attractiveness or supply, if we reduce the number of people from England in our country, what we are doing, despite of having a great attractiveness and a great supply of tourism services, well, destination 2 gains. What we have to do we can, if we increase the prices, it's even worse. We can reduce the prices, but well, in some occasions, like here, for example, in some occasions, if the reduction, if fee is not very high, we can have this situation with 3 intersection points. In those cases, there is a possibility, more or less from here, of achieving some success in tourism industry, but our competing country is also gaining from other basin of attraction. So this is a situation, but we need to study a bit more. This is our basic model. And what we have to do now is to do some simulations, no, in order to determine what the model says. Well, the preliminary conclusions that we have is a model of 2 competing destinations. If tourist decision is only affected by the natural or cultural endowment of the destination, we have the traditional tag theory, but if indirect utility is taken into account, we have an interconnected evolution and a spatio-temporal tourism area life cycle. In this model appears 2 agglomeration equilibria, regardless of which of them has a higher natural attraction, and the basin of attraction enlarged with the natural attractiveness, with the supply of tourism services, and reduces with the salaries and prices. And capacity and travel constraints, as the one imposed in the COVID era, may change the basin of attraction of these 2 equilibria, and we have to study what happened what happened now. That's all. I don't know if I am in time. I'm so sorry if I have surpassed the time.
Don't worry, don't worry. You're okay. Thank you very much for the very nice presentation and very interesting. We always welcome these theoretical papers. So, do we have comments? I don't remember who is the comment in the paper of Pilar.
The commenter, I am. So
yes, Perles. Come on.
Hello, Jose.
Hola. I am going to see the. I am going to share. I would like to share my screen.
Commenter. Perles is a serious commenter with a PPT for the comments, no?
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Well, I am the commenter of the paper of Badalejo, Arnaldo, Martinez Garcia. As said by Professor Rida, it's a very, very interesting paper. I am no a theoretical guy, but I'm going to try to do some comments on the paper. The authors are free to take my modest comments or to discard them if there is something that is wrong due to my misunderstanding of the paper. So first, the paper and the originality. In the paper, as explained, a joint analysis of tourist demand and firms is performed on 2 destinations. This is an adaptation of the full-use capital model used to explore the touristic attraction and dispersion force and the long-run equilibria among destinations. The model enriched analysis carried out by using the theory life cycle life and takes a dynamic carrying capacity of destinations. Also, the paper explored the impact of the COVID-19, and the paper is original and very suggestive and in some questions provocative. So to me, if I will refer this paper, to me it deserves publication, my comments. But some comments, suggestions to the model that to me could be more clear in a final version or revision of the model. First, regarding to the demand model, it's a bit strange to me that in the CPO, the optimality conditions of the demand functions, they don't not depend on the carrying capacity. If carrying capacity is a key issue in the model, it's a little bit explained that in CPO this variable does not appear. For good this fact challenge, for example, the literature on over-tourism, where carrying capacity or congestion could have a key role in the utility of the tourists, of the visitors. Also, in the indirect utilities equation, carrying capacity appear. So I think this is a question that would be a little bit explained to me in the first part of the paper. Also, in the page 6 of the manuscript, the sense of carrying capacity would be better explaining. Authors say that there is a singular sense of the carrying capacity in the paper, but I think it should be more clear because it would be counterintuitive. For example, if carrying capacity depends on the number of firms in a destination, to me, it could lead that one way to eliminate congestion or over-tourist issues in a destination would be to increase the accommodation capacity of the destination. And it seems a counterintuitive measure according with the literature on the topic. If we have an issue, a problem with the current capacity, congestion, I don't think that to increase more capacity would be the solution. I think this would be is necessary to explore more or to explain in more detail which is the carrying capacity concept in this theoretical paper. And also in the sampling model, K capital is assumed to be the mobile factor and labor is assumed to be the mobile factor. I think I thought also should explain how realistic would be this assumption in destination, because it could be interesting or realistic in the case of comparing international destinations, but for example, we are comparing national or inner destinations, this would be very realistic because we know that many people go in summer to destinations in order to work from other cities, other municipalities in the same country. So it could be explained, it seems it's necessary to be explained why this assumption is done in the paper. Other comments would be the main result of the model is in accordance with expectations. So when prices per level outputs and attractive conditions are the same in both destinations, the equilibrium in the model implies an equal distribution of the market share and capital. It's expected. When prices per level and outputs and attractiveness conditions are not the same, so the equilibrium implies an unequal distribution of the market and asymmetrical equilibrium. It's common sense, this result. So in this sense, the model is in accordance. However, I think this can be stated in a static sense, because in a dynamic sense, the situation of the two destinations could be different depending on the starting point. This has been better explained in the presentation of Pilar now in the presentation. I think that in the paper is not so clear that is in the presentation. With a lagging destination needing to overcompensate the effort to reach the market share of the advanced destination. If they start in different phases of the life cycle, I think that the lagged is below the levels to overcompensate. Also in the page 10, the capacity constraints analysis opened the door to COVID having structural long-term effects. This is a very interesting result from the theoretical point of view that, for example, is also explored in a paper with Ramon, Sevilla, and myself with regard to the economic crisis. How conjunctural crisis or short-term crisis would rise or would lead to a structural change in the conditions of market share, structural effects. But it would depend on the asymmetric of the COVID impact in its destination and its duration. For the economic crisis, the last economic crisis, it would be a strong difference. In the case of the COVID, it's necessary to see the difference among destinations are also so big and so asymmetric from a world viewpoint. Also, in section 304, some references to the effect of the inland interior tourism should be done as a mechanism that would compensate the effects of the international demand analyzed in the paper. In the case of Spain, is very well documented that destination that depend more on international tourism has been more effective than other destinations that could compensate the international demand with inner or national demand. So I think in a theoretical paper it's difficult to explain, but some nuance or some explanations should be introduced in the paper. But overall, it's a very interesting and a very good paper for me. So congratulations for the authors and go ahead with the paper.
Thank you, Perles. Pilar, do you want to?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, I have to say something. Thank you very much.
So we can open for if somebody wants to ask something. Okay.
Okay, yes, of course. Questions and suggestions are very welcome. Well, thank you very much, Jose. Thank you very much for your comments, because I have the opportunity to explain some things that. Well, first of all, I have to apologize because it is not a very well written, because it is a very new work, so it is not a finished paper, because it is only an extended abstract, no, of going. So for this reason, some concepts are not perhaps very well explained. First of all, you say that it is counterintuitive because in all the models, the carrying capacity is essential for the utility of tourists. So why not in the CPO conditions, optimality condition, don't appear this? Well, take into account the carrying capacity is taken into account, and the congestion is taken into account for tourists moving from one country to the other. But once they have decided to be there, the utility is affected by their decision on how many consume of this go or the other is not affected, because the decision has taken in the previous step. Okay? This is essential, and maybe we have to explain this clearly in the paper. Well, the second important thing is that the carrying capacity increases with the number of firms, and this is counterintuitive. No, this is a topic of discussion, heavy discussion with Isabel Albaladejo and myself from a long time ago, and we have published paper with this concept. We have to explain this a bit better in this paper. What happened is, the supply of touring services is not only accommodation. It's a variety of goods. So if we have a higher variety of goods, the congestion is lower, because if all the people are in the beach, they feel congestion. But if you are offering a different touring services, beach, trekking on the mountains, going to a attraction park, if you offer different attraction, more variety of services, congestion, the carrying capacity increases. The carrying capacity increases. This is the idea. Okay, it's not counterintuitive, because you are thinking in hotel rooms only. No. But the carrying capacity is not only hotel rooms. It's a new firm offer a different good, so people can diversify their activities. Okay. Labor mobility, yes, from Marbella to Benidorm. Of course, we are always thinking in international tourings. Maybe for focusing on local tourism, labor mobility should be taken into account. But yes, this is not the focus on this paper. We have constrained the scope of the paper in order to explain some things. Well, of course, in the paper, maybe in extended abstract, maybe it is not very clear that what we are doing is a dynamic model. And if you focus on the static equilibria, conclusions are not good. We are focusing on the basin of attraction of both agglomeration equilibria, and how this basin of attraction changes with different policies, mainly with the policies imposed by the COVID, by the countries for preventing the COVID. Of course, what I am not, if it is clear, what this paper says is that structural changes may cause long-run effect. And if our country was the predominant country in the tourism industry, some constraint restriction or travel restriction can move and have long-term consequences for our country. Of course, completely in agree with you. Well, we have focused on international tourism and not on interior tourism. Maybe this is a scope of another work. Thank you very much, Jose. I have explained this thing and you give me the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pilar.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Perle. Thank you, Pilar. It's a pity that we don't have time for questions, but we can leave for the coffee break, virtual coffee break that we have If somebody wants to add something to Pilar or some comments, we are
Well,
open for this.
I don't know if they have my email. In any case, they have it, no? Okay.
Okay,
in any case. Okay.
You can communicate. You can also ask Romulo for the paper of Pilar and so on. Viviana, I leave you the role of chair.
Okay, thank you. Well, hello everybody. We are moving now to the second paper. How does COVID-19 affect accommodation preference and analysis of Airbnb using machine learning techniques, from Jose Francisco Perles, the presenter will be Jose. Jose, you can start with the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share again. Well, first of all, to see that initially I am not the presenter of this paper. I am one of the co-authors of the work, but the presenter of this paper is, as explained before, to the organizers ill. I am going to explain this presentation doing my best, but I think it's very easy. So the paper is also a working paper, and it's a mix of two research. So it's a research. We have two purposes. The basic purpose is to see how external shock or exogenous shock like COVID-19 would change the preference of the behavior of the customers using the Airbnb facilities. From two viewpoints. First, we want to test for a structural change, doing an adaptation of the CHO test, structural change test, in a demand function of Airbnb accommodation to see what kind of variables have changed the behavior, significance, or the effect size from previous COVID situation to the post-COVID situation. This is one of the objectives of the paper. But parallel, the second objective of the paper is to see if this structural change in the model would translate to the prediction capacity of a demand model built on machine learning techniques. So I advance now that probably, or the preliminary results are that an structural change, structurally the sense of the chronometric structural change test show in explanatory model does not translate in prediction change from models pre to post-COVID-19. The methodology is tested in two Spanish cities, Madrid and Valencia, with different size and different tourist model. Madrid representing urban tourist destination, and Valencia with a mix of tourists between urban tourists and sun and beach tourists. The data used is the Airbnb apartment offer for the both cities during the years 2019 and 2020, and using the month from May to September, both included. So the database is huge, with more than 36,000 properties analyzed and 50 variables related to these properties. Finally, after pre-processing the data, we use this number of observations, practically the double for Madrid than from Valencia, because the size of destination are different, but it's a big sample size. So to get significance on the coefficients is very easy. So we have used an independent variable, dichotomous, a dummy variable 1, 0, when we assign 1 if the occupation in that month is over the median of the occupation of the whole sample, and 0 if it's below. This is for each month. The estimated model is with 31 variables, all of these relevant according to the previous literature. So the occupation, the reputation, the number of photos or the features of the apartments, also the cancellation policy, which seem is a very important variable in times of COVID-19, and the results show that for both for Madrid and Valencia, there are structural changes, but the same, understand structural in the econometric sense. Located in May of 2020, according to the COVID-19 initial, the starting of the pandemic. In the case of Valencia, the model also detects a structural change located in May 2019 that we think is due to some change in the regulation of the apartments in the Airbnb for this region. But we are still working on this possibility. So for the prediction exercises, we want to work with the world model, and we want to use a more parsimonious model using variable reduction methodology, basically the stepwise backward progression. We have tested also step by forward and lasso, but finally in the preliminary results we use the stepwise backward based on BIC criteria. The reduction of the variables is not very huge. From 31 variables, we use 28, similar, and the criteria don't change very much. But also for the explanatory model, in all cases, the structural change is confirmed. For the prediction model, I have not the confusion matrix in this presentation because we are still working, but we also find some strange issues with the model because the structural changes are concerned with variables that we have no clear the economic sense of the change. For example, in Valencia, the heating or the comments or the price are questions that we don't understand very well why the structural change is confirmed with these variables pre-post-COVID. The type of accommodation has a more logic. And for the case of Madrid, also the price, the type of accommodation, and other issues, but the heating or the dishwasher also appear in the model, and it's not very clear why these variables suffer the structural change according to the Chow test used in the paper. But is a paper in progress. We want to finish the initial version at the end of the year. But at the moment, this is what we have.
Well, hello.
Hello, yes.
Thank you very much, Jose. I'm looking for Isabel. That it is your commenter.
Isabel couldn't come because she's in a lecture at the moment, in this very moment. So I will be the one making the comment.
Go ahead.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. Oh, okay. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for giving us the chance to comment this paper, because I have been reading a lot of papers from these authors and I really like their work. So thank you for giving us the chance to revise it. The thing is that what I had for making a comment at the beginning was the extended abstract. So I have some comments that you have been talking about during the presentation. So first of all, well, the main research question is estimate if possible with the methodology that you propose, if as a consequence of the global pandemic, there has been not only a reduction in the volume of arrivals, but also significant shifts in accommodation preferences. And if so, if they change can be considered different depending on the specialization profiles of the destinations. This is what I was reading in the extended abstract. You have been using data from Airbnb, as in other studies that you have done, using two main cities in Spain, Valencia and Madrid, and using data during the summertime. The methodology was or has been the use of a logic panel data model, a structural break test. I read some references to machine learning techniques, but I didn't see in the abstract how they were using. So this is one of the questions that I had. So the first comment is that it seems to be really a very appealing idea to have a method for detecting quickly a change in preferences after large adverse shocks as the one that we have had. But the thing is that using a so short period of time, if you discover that there are changes in preferences, they are, at least we cannot say that they are permanent, they are temporary. So my first question is if you think that the same methodology can be used in order to identify long-term and permanent changes in preferences, and if so, what are the requirements to be added to the methodology for doing it? As I was reading in the title of the presentation and at the end of the conclusions that you have been using some machine learning techniques as part of the process, I was interested in knowing exactly. Well, I have seen that you have tried lasso regularization in order to find to find a reduction in the number of explanatory variables that you are working with. But if you have been using another type of techniques, I would be interested in knowing. You have been talking about this, but the only thing that I read was that you have found a change in preferences. And the change in preferences was different between the two locations. And I wanted to know if the results had been coherent with the reduction in the volume depending on the destination, because as we know, the urban destinations had been the more damaged destinations with the pandemic. So I wanted to know if the change in preferences is related to the type of change in preferences is connected with, or can be explained in the same way as the value of the reduction in volume. And finally, between all these explanatory variables that you have been using, the question is if you have considered to use some health variables, because as you have the different accommodations located geographically, even in the same place, you can detect different numbers in the prevalence of the illness. And the thing is that last summer, when deciding the visiting places, we were taking a look to this kind of measures as well. So just a question, if you have considered this type of variables as well. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Jose.
Thank you very much, Santa, for your very kindly comments and your very suggestive suggestions and comments to the paper. With regard to the possibility to detect the long-term change using this methodology, at the moment we are skeptic. In fact, probably the structural change test, which is known in the econometric literature, the CHOW test, has in this case very bad meaning, because from another point of view, structural change are long-term, as you say, changes in the behavior. And with this test, at the moment, we cannot test for a long-term effects in the pattern occupation of the preference of the Airbnb customers. So probably to detect long-term or structural, really structural, the semantic sense of the word change, we should use another kind of techniques. With regard to the machine learning techniques used, at the moment we have test a Bayes logistic model. Bayes logistic model, because with the classical logistic model we have some convergence issues. Of course, the set of techniques that could be applied to this exercise of prediction are huge, from Bayes names, support vector machines, same logistic regression, random forest. There are many techniques that can be used to test the prediction capacity of the model. With the preliminary results with the Bayes logistic model don't show a dramatic change in the predictive capacity of the model. We should test with the other techniques to see if this is real for the other techniques, support vector machines. But my first impression is that the results don't change very much. And finally, your comment on the incident rate or the health measures is real and very, very pertinent. At the moment, in the model, we have not included this differential behavior in the health conditions for Madrid and Valencia. We must to think how to deal, because these different variables are only for the post-COVID period and not for the pre-COVID period. So we should think a little bit how to include this in the model, but it's a real relevant suggestion and a very, very important comment. Thanks for your comment.
Well, thank you very much, Jose. I think we have a few minutes for some questions, if anybody want to. Well, perhaps at the end of the session, we can move to the third paper, which will also be presented by Jose. COVID in consolidated tourist destination, mismatched problems and observed effects, the case of the province of Alicante, Spain. So, Jose, you can start with the presentation.
It would be very boring to hear me.
No, not at all.
Well, this is another kind of paper that is far from the technicalities of the previous one. The theoretical paper of Isabel and Pilar, that is a very, very technical paper, and the other one, more applied from Luis, myself, that has their complexity, but from an applied from point of view. This paper is a different story. This is a very, very basic paper without any complexities from a methodology viewpoint. Any complexities and theoretically, but with relevant practical implications for destinations, at least in the Spanish case. And I don't know how this would affect other destinations where summer is coming or summer is now, would be the Brazil or Argentina or this destination. Let me explain a little. So this is a paper located for the Alicante province. You know, Costa Blanca or Alicante province is a set of sun and beach destinations of the Mediterranean coastline of Spain. They go from Denia to Torrevieja, practically. This coastline with destinations like Calpe, Benidorm, that is a well-known destination, or Alicante, where is the university where we're coming from. The question is that in Spain, the main indicator to evaluate or to monitorize the COVID-19 pandemics has been, until now, the 14 days rate or cumulative incidence with this indicator. Looking for this indicator in Spain, until now, we have had 5 peaks or 5 waves of COVID-19 from March 2020 to Christmas peaks in November or January, November 2020, January 2021, and the last one in summer 21, with the peak in August. So the 14-day rate is a very easy indicator, is the number of confirmed cases during the last 14 days, divided by the official registered population of cities, municipalities, or destination, and in 100,000 cases measured. So, well, what's the problem? The problem is the following. This indicator has been used by authority in order to implement the measures to fight against pandemic. So, for example, in the last wave, winter wave, the Christmas wave, in tourist destinations like Calpe, which is used as example, we can see a peak of the incidence from 1,000 cases by 100,000 rate in January, February. This is a real incidence rate. Why I say that it's a real incidence rate? Because at this moment, winter or Christmas, the mobility was completely restricted. So people was at home, and only the people registered on destination were in the destination. So this is a real incidence rate. 1,200 is a real incidence rate for the winter pandemic. The problem is that in summer, when the mobility was allowed and the destinations were full of people, I will explain later which is full of people, the incidence was similar or a little bit upper than the winter rate. But measures was adopted using this rate. But the question is that this rate is not real, because the official 14 days rate is based on an adjusted population, for the case of Calpe, of 22,000 inhabitants. When for the summer, the estimated value of the factor population would be between 40,000 to 70,000 persons in June, July, or August. In fact, the destination was full of people, national people, not so international people, but full of national tourists and visitors. When we use an adjusted population to the reality of destination that takes into account the visitors, the real rate would be of the order of 600. So the half of the official 14-day rate of destination. And this peak, that is less than the observed peak during the previous winter wave, is also slightly lower than the peak observed value for the Spain as a whole during summer. So, to be clear, destinations experience lower incidence rates taking account the real population than the average of the country during the same period. However, looking at the unadjusted rate, authorities take measures in order to fight against pandemic. In fact, mobility and the hours that one person could be in a restaurant or in a disco, on this kind of amenities, very important for tourists, was limited. So this hurt in a significant way the competitiveness of tourist destinations in a period where destinations were full of persons. Recently, the same issue has been observed with the case of Benidorm during the last holidays or bank holidays that we have been in Spain. So the reflection is that the 14 day rate is not a useful measure of the evolution of COVID pandemic when we are dealing with tourist destinations. This is the first main result of the paper. It's not econometrics, it's not hard statistics, it's not modeling, but it's a very practical issue in destinations that would affect other destinations around the world. A second part of the paper is dealing with potential difference among rates, incidence rate, among destinations. The rationale for the analysis is that it is assumed or it is expected that crowded destinations with high population density are more prone to higher incidence rate than other kind of destinations with low density ratios, construction of buildings. For example, this is the case of Benidorm, very well, a well-known destination with in purple the density or the capacity of the densidation measured through the toll of the buildings. This is Benidorm, the example of a high concentrated model, of high concentrated, high density tourist model. This is conversely the case of Torrevieja, based in a low density model, but based in chalets or bungalows, this kind of condos or this kind of buildings. And this is a middle case, that is Calpe, where I come from, where we combine, we mix the two models, high density model around the coast and a sprawl based in low density model, the urbanizations outside the destination. So what happened? Well, we have used a population, because this is not a sample, a population of the coast destination, the province Alicante in Costa Blanca, and measure the 14-day rate from January to, I think in the paper is until September, but we are collecting more data because every 3 days there are an update of the data. We can use more data until November, for example. But I think this is the case until August. I have used again until October or September, but the conclusion does not change. Well, if we perform an ANOVA, analysis of variance analysis, we get significant difference among destinations in the provincia of Alicante. Initially, we get significant difference. But the question is, initially, we can discard the quality of mix, so we can think the cumulative incidence is not the same among tourist destinations. But if we do a post hoc analysis, we see that all differences are explained by only two destinations, Els Poblets and Benitatxell. There are two very, very small destinations and inland destinations that can be thought as an outlier with regard to the comparison to the other destinations in the sample. So as a robustness check, when we exclude these two destinations from the analysis, we don't get any difference among destinations. We have an inconclusive result. We cannot reject the null hypothesis of equal variance, so we get an inconclusive result. So this is the second main result of this preliminary paper. Summarizing, we think that we need to use an adjusted 14-day rate to analyze or to measure the evolution of the COVID-19 pandemic in tourist destination. Also, we need to explore more in depth if real difference exists among types of destinations with regard to the COVID-19 incidence. So this is the modest contribution of this paper, and all the comments will come.
Thank you very much, Jose. Luis Moreno is the commentator of this paper, but he cannot come, so he sent the comments by email, and well, I read it to you. A minute, please. So I have the comments of Luis Moreno. Well, his comments are a very interesting research which questions the results that week after week we watch in the news, and which were against the measures adopted in tourist destinations and suffered by the local population. Well, one of the methodological doubts I have is the estimation of the monthly population. And this is the question. The waste generated and the water consumed per inhabitant can vary between summer and winter. For example, filling swimming pools or taking several showers a day can cause significant changes in the average daily water consumption. Has this reality been taken into account? There's a second question about, he said, one of the most relevant conclusions is that the population registered in the destination is not an indicator that correctly reflects the reality of the destinations in the case of tourist destination. But this situation also occurs in the case of agricultural populations during the harvesting season or in cities such as Madrid, which have a high intraday mobility. As an expert, an employee of the administration, what mechanisms does the public sector have to give us? Does the public sector have to give us a better analysis of the real situation of the COVID? And does the information conflict with the data protection law? It's a good way. The second most relevant conclusion is that there are no significant differences between types of destinations in terms of cumulative virus incidence. I understand that the population density used refers to the local population, but as the case of CAPE shows, the population density during the summer increases a lot in the Mediterranean destination. Would it be possible to analyze a similar exercise using the real population density, tourists plus locals, and the cities analyzed? Do you consider that there would be significant changes in the results? Finally, he said, not much more to add. Knowing the researchers of the paper, I know perfectly well that they will carry out a brilliant research. So well, you have the word.
Hi, Luis. Luis is a very kind person. Well, the questions are interesting questions. With regard to the estimation of the real population by using the water consumption or the waste generated, is explained in the paper a little bit. But the estimations done by the town hall also take into account some studies that try to estimate the population based on mobile phones mobility destination. So the estimations done by the council town hall combine very different kinds of sources. One is the water consumption that has been used quickly in this paper to explore the population in 2021, but this variation has been estimated using data from 2018, where the real population were estimated using also water consumption, waste generation, and the mobile phones registered at the moment in the destination. So it leads to the second question: how the public administration could use a better estimation of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well,
also, does the information conflict with the data protective law? This is the
well, this is a interesting practical question, but it's in part solved now by the authorities. Recently, the Spanish National Institute is estimating the real population of destinations based on mobile phones. This is an experimental statistics. They call experimental statistics, and this probably would solve this issue of to know the real population of each city or destination from 2020 to now. I saw the first report from Segitur. Segitur is the Spanish Society for Innovation and Tourism, with the INE, with the Spanish National Institute, with data from summer 2020. But surely they are going to follow these trends for 2021, 2022. So probably this will solve the question. Regarding with the protection data, I know that Spanish National Institute is is very careful to anonymize the data to use for this kind of estimation. They are not only data from private companies, and that there are data from private companies, but filtered by the Spanish National Institute with all the protection, personal protection data law taken into account. And with the last question, yes, of course, if we are criticizing the use of the registered population in one case, why the ANOVA, the analysis variance exercise, not to use the real population of destination? It would be possible by using data from Spanish National Institute. I need to see if the last summer data is now published. I think so, by the Spanish National Institute, using the mobile phones for this kind of destination. So it's an exercise that is possible, at least for the destinations analyzed in this paper, for the Provincia Alicante destination, if not all of them, because I don't know if the Spanish National Institute is using a threshold for the destination, only analyze the big destination. But at least for some of the destinations used in the paper, considered in the paper, it's possible to do this exercise with the data from the last summer. So it's a very, very interesting suggestion.
Okay, thank you very much, Jose. I don't know, it is time to close the session. It's 10 in here. And go to the coffee break. It's right, Romulo, Veronica?
Yes, Viviana. 15 minutes for a coffee break, and then we return for the next section.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to all of you present there. Commentaries. Well, we see you later.
Okay, thank you very much. We see you in 15 minutes, okay? Hello, hi everybody. Well,
Hello.
let's continue. Good morning. Let's continue with the presentations.
Hello.
Hello. We have Professor Mariana Brandão now, the chair of the next session. So you can start, Mariana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is everybody here who's presenting today? I think we have three works, right? So good morning, everyone. My name is Mariana Brandão. I am a postdoctoral researcher at the School of Tourism and Hospitality of Universidade Federal Fluminense. I'm glad to be here today as chair of this section. We'll have three presentations of very interesting papers concerning the impact of the COVID pandemic on tourism and its recovery. The three papers are from three different countries, so we have a very international section, right? And I will ask the authors to present their papers in 10 minutes max, so we can have 5 minutes for discussion following the presentations. So now I call Juan Gabriel Brida, Silvina Elias, Vitória Mogni, and Maria Nela Seixas, and Miriam Scaglione to present their work entitled A Cluster Analysis of Impact of the Coronavirus on Tourism Demand in Uruguay during the 2021 high season. So who's going to, is Vitória who's going to presenting, right?
Yes, I'm going to present.
Hi, good morning, Vitória. So you have 10 minutes, okay?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
I want to share. I don't know if I can share the presentation. Yes. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present our work. This is a work in process, and we're still working on the analysis and the conclusions of the work. So this is a very valuable opportunity for us to receive your questions, your comments, and it will help us very much to improve our work. Thank you very much. Well, okay. We are interested in investigate the perception of the risk in tourism activity during the COVID-19 pandemic and the behavior of tourists. We are based on a previous work carried out by the same authors. The data is from a survey that we implemented in Uruguay during summer of 2020-2021. And the questionnaire is an adaptation from one that was designed by the Institute of Tourism of Vigeso Valais, Switzerland. We have 369 responses and it's a convenient sample. Why we do a cluster analysis? Well, we are interested in doing a cluster analysis because the previous work we did, the results were on average behavior of tourists. And with this paper, we are going to try to find homogeneous groups of tourists that differ each other and to interpret what are one of them, all of them, and see what are the implications that we can find in terms of policies, marketing, and so on. The study performs a cluster analysis classifying the tourist behavior and the perception of risks in the pandemic and the influence of them in the changes of the behavior of travel. We perform based on we have a hierarchical aggregative classifications methods to implement, and we base it on we choose the variables based on the previous work that we made an analysis of confirmatory factor analysis. Well, the variables that we choose, where we can group them in 4 categories. We want to know about the general appreciation of the risk, what people think or behave, that the global risk about COVID-19. The second group of questions were about the travel behavior with coronavirus, what they think about the risks or what the measures they take from if they have to travel during coronavirus. The third one group is the level of acceptance of control measures, sanitary control measures, when they go to a destination, a new destination. And the last group are, we want to know if anything is changing, like the situation, the sanitary situation, or some measures are changing, if people change the decision not to travel in this year. Well, those are the questions that I want very quick from this part, because it's just what questions we make and in the survey, in the questionnaire, in the 4 sessions. The current coronavirus worries me, or if the coronavirus is totally out of control. They have to measure them in a 5-point Likert scale. These are from about the travel behavior. They currently avoid traveling by plane or by public transportation, or if we ask them if the travel habits will probably change with the coronavirus in the future. And the third are what the level of acceptance in, about health controls, like complete a health form or quarantine upon arrival, or something, or optional obligation to be vaccinated. And the last one is, well, if something changes, like reopen all stores, reopen all restaurants, or if any, not matter what changes are, maybe they will not plan vacation this year. If we ask all of these questions in the question. Well, finally, I'm on to the results. This is the most important. For cluster analysis, we found four clusters, 4 groups. And we want to present them here. The first one is we call them the thoughtful or the reflexive group. This is a group with 15% of the sample. It is a relatively older group. In this group is the highest percentage of people over 66 years old. And in terms of gender, this is the female and male participation is similar to the proportion of the sample. And it's also the group with the highest proportion of non-residents of the sample. The second cluster, we call them the cautious. This is the 20% of the sample. This is the younger group. It's in this group, female participation is higher than the sample, and it's also the highest proportion of residents we have here. The third group, we call them the risky, and it's 42% of the sample. In this group, it's a more uniform age distribution, prevailing middle age. Male participation is higher proportion compared to the proportion of the sample, and it's a group. This group is preponderance of health employees, independent workers, and also retired people. And the last one is the anxious. We call them the anxious group. Is 25%. So also it's a middle age of people. Children participation is similar to the sample. In this group, we have a high percentage of people with PhD degree, and it's also a group with a preponderance of employees and professionals. Well, what about they ask the questions? In the first group, I wanted to compare them. The first group about the risk perception related to the pandemic situation. Well, the first group, it's the thoughtful. 90% of people think that the coronavirus worries them. And the cautious, the second cluster, also 92% is worried about the situation, and they also consider that the virus is not a form of influence. The risky are the group has a lowest pandemic risk perception, and they consider, most of them consider that the attitude towards the virus is very alarmist. The last one is a very interesting group, the anxious, because this is the most concerned about the pandemic situation. 94% of them worry them, and more than 80% consider that tourism will be massively affected by the coronavirus in the near future. About this related to tourism behavior, the first one, the hopefuls, they have a moderate behavior regarding the precautions to take in case of traveling or have a traveling on in any transport. The cautions, if they are the highest percentage of people who agree to avoid traveling in any way of transport, and these 80% of them will change in the near future their travel habits because of the coronavirus. The risky, they are the group with the lowest percentage of people who agree to take precautions in travel. In the anxious, this group has the higher percentage of people who consider their travel habits will probably not change due to the coronavirus in the near future. Regarding to the measures required at destination, the first group, they say that they will not renounce to travel if there are sanitary control measures, except for the requirement of vaccination. I have to say that in this moment in Uruguay, we didn't have available. We didn't have vaccine available. The cautions is the most, that this group was the most resigned traveling if they have to do quarantine or if quarantine is required. Regarding the other measures, in general, it depends on the situation. This is not very clear in this group. The risk is this group is interesting because this group is the greatest group, the people who don't accept sanitary measures when visiting a destination. They are the people who more quit travel if they have to have any sanitary control. And the last one, they really want to have the greatest willingness to travel, and in this group is they are who really accept all type of controls, and the least willing to give up the trip if in any control, in any sanitary control. When we ask them if they change the decision not to travel in the near future if health conditions are changing, the first group is not defined because there are 1/3 part that they don't change.
Victoria, I'll just ask you to hurry a little bit because we already 10 minutes. We already achieved the 10 minutes time.
Okay,
so if you can hurry. Yeah, just definitely. Thank you.
Okay. The cautions, they say that the 44% express that they will not plan vacation this year. The risky is the group that they decided not to. This is the group that they decided not to travel if the health situation changed. They decided to travel, sorry. And the anxious are the group that more than 80% will decide to travel if any condition changes in next year. So the conclusions are and these are the conclusions that as I said, we are working in these conclusions. The most important is that we have two limitations that we have to consider. That one is this is a not allowance and statistical inference because we have a convenience sample, and we find these static assets are limited to zero. Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry because it takes more time.
Thank you, Victoria. And now I would like to ask, Silvina Elias is here. If she's not, who's gonna comment the paper?
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Carolina Pascheroni y yo soy
Hi.
coautora junto con Silvina Elías.
Ajá.
Les pido mil disculpas que preparé tanto los comentarios como la presentación en castellano. Y mi
Thank
nivel
you.
de inglés no creo que me permita poder resolver en 10 minutos la presentación y en pocos minutos los comentarios. Si les parece adecuado, sigo, y si consideran
Sí.
que sí,
Okay, yeah, you can go.
bien. Primero, me pareció muy interesante cuando leí la exposición, el artículo, la tipología, poder tipificar los distintos turistas y su comportamiento frente al COVID. Y con Silvina, pensamos en el momento de leer el resumen extendido, en dos preguntas muy sencillas. Una de ellas refiere a la metodología y está vinculada con qué variable asociada al COVID permite en mayor medida diferenciar los grupos. Es decir, qué variable, si es que esta metodología lo permite, identificar qué variable genera mayor distancia entre grupos y menor distancia entre los grupos asociadas al COVID. La pregunta surge porque al leer el abstract extendido, había algunos porcentajes muy altos en la mayor parte de los clústeres, como por ejemplo el riesgo percibido frente a la pandemia, o el cambio de planes frente a las distintas medidas que adopta el país de destino. Esta era una pregunta, y no sé si sigo a continuación la segunda.
Sí, haceme las dos.
Que se vinculaban con si el relevamiento, la encuesta, también incluía hábitos de turismo previos a la pandemia, que quizás contribuyeran a identificar este tipo de grupos y a aislar las características asociadas al COVID, aislar en el sentido que quizás son hábitos que los turistas traen antes de la pandemia. Son caracterizaciones de los turistas previos a la pandemia. Eso únicamente, y felicitar por el trabajo.
Muchas gracias, Carolina. Bueno, sí, bueno, te respondo primero la segunda. El cuestionario tiene más de 30 preguntas y hay distintas secciones. Hay una parte que pregunta sobre los hábitos previos a la pandemia. Claro, nosotros cuando elegimos las variables, nosotros primero hicimos un análisis factorial, encontramos ocho factores, de los cuales en esos factores no estaban esas variables previas, entonces elegimos las que aparecieron con más poder explicativo de los factores para hacer los clústeres. Hicimos distintos clústeres, elegimos este por la parsimonia, porque había solo 4 grupos. Depende de las variables que incluíamos, hay una diferencia entre 5, 4, pero más o menos respondían, eran muy similares. Y respecto a la primera pregunta, bueno, la metodología, yo no participé directamente en la elaboración de los clústeres, yo hice más la parte del análisis, ese trabajo lo hizo Marianela, y ahí la verdad que me tengo que preguntar bien cuáles fueron, porque justo no está Marianela, creo, en este momento, pero básicamente si me pongo a mirar así el trabajo más detalladamente, las variables que probablemente nosotros nos parecieron más relevantes fueron las de si cambiarían o no sus planes de vacacionar este año en la medida que cambien algunas medidas sanitarias o algunas medidas de control en el momento de viajar. Esas fueron una de las que más explicación encontramos que podían presentar. Claro, al agregar otras fue como generándose distintas distintas distancias, pero la debo a esa bien clarita hoy.
Buenísimo.
Okay, so thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Victoria, for the explanation. It's a very, very interesting paper.
Very interesting questions, Carolina. Very interesting questions. Thank you.
Ah, bueno, muy interesante el trabajo.
I will talk with you later because I have some questions also, but we are out of time. So I'm gonna keep on with the presentations. But later I will talk to Victoria because I thought it was a very interesting paper and I have some insights that I would like to discuss with you later. Now I would like to call, I don't know who is going to present, if it's Carolina Sereta or Eda da Silva Anana or Marcio Rosato Bedake to present the work Tourism Trends in Brazil for the Post-Pandemic Period of Coronavirus Reflections in the Light of Portfolio Analysis. Is Caroline who is going to present?
Yes.
Okay, Caroline, thank you. So you have 10 minutes, and then we have the other research to comment a paper. So you can start now.
Okay, I need the support to Edar Anhanha para to a presentation in this
Carolina.
Zoom. Ok.
Caroline.
Oi.
Oi. Eu vou aqui compartilhar para você.
Compartilhe.
Ou, bom, o que ficar melhor. Se vocês quiserem, eu posso fazer.
Tá, ok. Fica melhor. Posso começar?
Então, Edar vai apresentar?
Yeah, you can start.
Estão me ouvindo?
Yes.
Ok. Good morning, buenos dias, bom dia a todos. Nós vamos apresentar, então, um trabalho que foi realizado no Brasil. Eu peço perdão em não falar em inglês neste momento, e vou falar um pouco em português, talvez um pouco em espanhol, para colaborar também com os colegas uruguaios e de outros países latinos que aqui estão. E professor Edar Anhanha, por ter mais afinidade com o inglês, irá nos representar com os trabalhos, com as falas em inglês, ok? Por favor, Rômulo, pode colocar a apresentação?
Só um minutinho.
Então, nosso trabalho é formado pelo professor Edar Anhanha, que é um administrador da Universidade Federal de Pelotas, professor Dr. Márcio Badic, que é um enfermeiro da Universidade Federal de Santa Maria, e por mim, que sou professora também da área de turismo na Universidade Federal de Santa Maria. E nós buscamos, então, as tendências do turismo no Brasil para o período pós-pandemia do coronavírus, reflexões à luz da análise do portfólio. Ok, Edar?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We are very, very sorry for not preparing our presentation in English. We didn't realize before that it was mandatory. We understood that it was possible to present in Portuguese or Spanish. But anyhow, let me try to brief about the presentation. Okay. This work regards, as Carol told before, about the possible inferences or the possible speculations about the future of tourism in Brazil in light of BCG metrics from the Boston Consulting Group. As everybody knows, the tourism recently was affected indistinctly, tourism and destinations themselves. And nobody knows about the recovery of these activities. Once we are not able to preview the next tendencies, we are trying to find some speculation about the possible tendencies in light of the past behavior. Can you change the slide, please? Yeah. This study is just an attempt to use a tool very popular among management activities, but in tourism, unfortunately, it's not so popular nowadays. It's very interesting to prospect the possibilities of every destination in light of three dimensions, three important dimensions. One is the tendency of growing or going down, is the tendency of the picture in terms of growing or becoming shorter about the market. In horizontal axis, we put normally the capacity of attraction. And as you know, we use the past numbers to prospect the future. Can you change the slide, please? The main objective, the main purpose of this work, of course, is trying to keep some elements from the past, put them in a reasonable way to prospect the future. Can you change, please? Yes. This is just this is just a small context about tourism studies in Brazil. I will skip that because respecting people that doesn't read Portuguese. Please, can you skip this? Yes. This is about the global crisis that impose a difficult task to project the future. What we are trying to do is trying to make an exercise of futurism. I don't know how to say futurism in English. I think it's futurism. It's just an attempt to prospect some possible behavior, but we are not sure that what will present will actually happen. Can you skip this, please? The BCG analysis is an interesting tool to analyze markets, to analyze portfolios when we have different units of strategic units. It puts in the same page, in the same graphic, in a 4-dimension matrix, the attractivity of a destination, the tendency of growing, and the size of every market, every group of tourists that arrive. Skip this, please. How can we project the arrival of tourists for Brazil, for the Brazilian market, to the Brazilian market in the near future? Once we don't have informations for now, we must prospect the future based in the past. If we make an analysis of a regression analysis and we calculate the tendency, we may prospect tendencies of growing, tendencies of stability, or tendencies of reduction, depending on the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, on the last 5 years past. let's see in the screen, we have 3 different examples of markets that may that we speculate that will keep Brazil as a destination, as a desired destination for the future. Uruguay, for example, is a growing market. Its tourists are coming to Brazil more and more. United States is in instability. During the last 5 years, the tendency is more or less horizontal. And the United Kingdom, it's reducing the export of tourists to Brazil, of course. We cannot tell that the United Kingdom tourists are keeping home more and more, but to Brazil, we can see. Please, the next one, please. Yes. Here we have an adaptation from the BCG metrics. When we see the BCG metrics, normally we put the strategic units in 4 quarters, in 4 quadrants. In one quadrant, we have a high improvement and very good attractivity. In this quadrant, we put a question mark normally. We put a question mark because we don't know the direction that market will keep now from now on. For example, we put question mark in Uruguay and Chile because even though we are very attractive to them, we are not sure if they will keep in the same way, in the same quadrant. We are not sure if they will be, they will stay as a market too interested in Brazil here on.
Professor Nana, we already reached the 10 minutes time, so if you can hurry a little bit.
Okay.
Just to finish the presentation. Thank you.
In the right corner, we have China and other countries in which tourism is improving and Brazil is able to attract them. And of course, we have our cash cows that are United Kingdom, Italy, and so on. Please, the next one, I think is the last. No, it's not the last. What are our possibilities? What do you recommend? In this corner, we have previous demand expanding, and we recommend to invest strong to try to recover this flush of entrances. The next one, please. Yeah, in this corner, we see markets what we're expanding, but we see tourism not good in terms of rentability. We recommend to invest selectively. The next one, please. The last one. Yeah, and here we see our cash cows that, of course, we recommend to keep and wait for the evolution. Here we have our most interesting group of tourists because we don't need to make efforts to attract them and they spend very much money in Brazil. Okay, I think it's yeah, the last one, please. Yes. Fortunately, we don't have problematic markets to expect. I think that the last one. Yeah. this is the conclusion. Once more, I apologize for our faults. It was, unfortunately, we didn't realize that we should prepare a presentation in English. Sorry for that.
It's okay. Thank you, Professor Carolina and Professor Eder. Now I would like to call Bibiana Lazilotta to comment on the paper.
Okay, I'm here. Well, thank you. Firstly, congratulations for the work. Your paper addresses a topic of great interest nowadays for all the countries. And it's quite a challenge to analyze the future tendencies of tourism after the COVID. It's really a great challenge. I have a few comments and questions. One of them is that the paper does not discuss the role of other factors or dimensions of the market. For example, that I think it may be important to take into account. For example, Uruguay, it's a small market, and even if it grows, keeping growth, it has a limit, and it's probably not of interest for the public policy, for example. I think it's a factor or a dimension that can take to make. I think it may be important to take into account this dimension of the size of the markets. But this is the main the questions. I think that I don't know how the changes in the behavior of the tourists are taken into account in this analysis, and I don't. I think it's not clear for me, obviously, that if it is expected to return to the old normality, or there's another alternatives to the future of tourism. Well, but these are some questions, but in particular, very congratulations for the papers, and I think it's very interesting.
Okay, thank you very much, Viviana.
Thank you, Viviana. Thank you, Professor Eder and Professor Carolina, once again. I will continue with the next presentation because we are short of time. But thank you once again. It's a very interesting work, and I think people can, after that, send you like some questions if they have. Now I would like to ask to close our section. I'd like to call Silvana Elinas and Carolina Ciaroni. It's Carolina who's presenting, right? Sorry. So to present their work entitled COVID-19 Crisis, Impact, Innovation and Perceptions, a preliminary study for hotels in Argentina. So, Carolina, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, bien. Puedo compartir. ¿Y? Creo que aún no. Ahí está. Bien, mi nombre es Carolina, trabajo con Silvina Elías en el Departamento de Economía de la Universidad Nacional del Sur. Pido disculpas nuevamente por haber preparado la presentación y los comentarios en castellano, la próxima vez será en inglés. Esta ponencia tiene como principal objetivo indagar, es un estudio de carácter cualitativo y exploratorio que tiene como principal objetivo indagar en la actual pandemia como factor inductor de la innovación en el sector hotelero de Argentina. Para esto planteamos dos objetivos específicos. Un primer objetivo es examinar la magnitud del impacto de la crisis en el sector hotelero a nivel nacional. El segundo punto es identificar las estrategias implementadas y o planificadas por los hoteleros locales, específicamente Ciudad de Bahía Blanca, en el escenario pandémico actual y su percepción del COVID como factor inductor de la innovación. La principal motivación de este trabajo radica en la magnitud de la crisis provocada por la pandemia COVID-19 a nivel internacional y a nivel Argentina específicamente, que sigue las mismas tendencias. Los indicadores de desempeño hotelero y turismo internacional, que las registradas en otros países, tasas de variación negativas y de más de 2 dígitos. Los efectos de la pandemia COVID-19 también se manifiestan en cambios cualitativos en el comportamiento de los turistas. Esto es preferencia por la cercanía geográfica, cumplimiento de medidas de salud y seguridad, exigencia de una mayor flexibilización de las políticas de cancelación y de reserva. En este escenario, distintos organismos internacionales mencionan a la innovación como un elemento clave de la recuperación del turismo y el funcionamiento en la denominada nueva normalidad. Y por organismos internacionales revisamos informes de la Organización Mundial del Turismo, Organización para la Cooperación y el Desarrollo Económico y la ONU. Específicamente hay una matriz, la matriz FODO, elaborada por la OMT, donde entre las oportunidades que ofrece la pandemia, incluye repensar el modelo de negocios, innovar y digitalizar el sector. Desde la perspectiva académica, desde la perspectiva de los estudios de innovación en hotelería, estos estudios comenzaron a crecer a partir de la década del 2000. En términos relativos hay un menor número de estudios en comparación con otro tipo de sectores, como la industria de alta tecnología o los servicios intensivos en conocimiento. Y el sector hotelero tiene, o el sector de alojamientos tiene algunas características distintivas en cuanto a innovación, como ser un sector que tiene una menor inclinación a la I+D, a las grandes inversiones en innovación, y es un sector que concentra sus esfuerzos de innovación en la compra o adquisición de tecnología, especialmente TICs. Es un sector que demanda nuevos avances en TICs. En relación a los factores que afectan a la innovación en hotelería, encontramos factores internos que están asociados con la característica de los hoteles, como su tamaño, pero también factores externos que están vinculados con, o que pueden representarse en crisis y ciclos económicos como la crisis de COVID. En autores recientes, señalan que los hoteles, en particular los hoteles pertenecientes a grandes cadenas hoteleras, ya han implementado una serie de innovaciones en respuesta a la pandemia, que van desde procedimientos que garantizan mayores estándares de higiene y distanciamiento social para reducir el riesgo de contagio percibido por los huéspedes, como el ajuste en las políticas de reserva y cancelación. Aquí muestro muy sintéticamente, esto es una figura extraída de un artículo reciente de 2 autores, Lee y Fee, 2021, que indican que en las primeras etapas, en las 2 primeras etapas de la crisis sanitaria, se recomiendan estrategias para los hoteles de manejo de la crisis asociadas con una política de tipo defensiva, ahorro, mientras que en las etapas posteriores de recuperación de la actividad turística, las estrategias deben estar focalizadas en innovar, cambiar políticas de marketing, de venta, repensar el modelo o aplicar nuevas estrategias de política o de medidas o de modelos de negocios. Particularmente esta ponencia, que como dije es de carácter preliminar, desde el punto de vista metodológico, utiliza fuentes de información secundarias, específicamente el informe de la Asociación Hotelera de la República Argentina, con el objetivo de identificar el impacto en términos de magnitud de la pandemia sobre el desempeño hotelero a nivel nacional y poder identificar indicios que den cuenta quizás de que la innovación puede ser un factor inductor, que el COVID puede ser un factor inductor de la innovación, es identificar algunos indicios, y por el otro lado, recopilamos a través de encuestas enviadas vía mail a hoteleros de 3 y 4 estrellas de la ciudad de Bahía Blanca, recopilamos información sobre su conducta o predisposición a innovar y su percepción sobre el COVID como factor inductor de la innovación. Fuentes secundarias de información, estas son las que utilizamos. Destaqué en negro el informe de la Asociación de Hoteles de Turismo de la República Argentina, y fuentes de información primaria, una encuesta enviada en octubre de 2020 a los hoteleros de 3 y 4 estrellas de la ciudad de Bahía Blanca. Para contextualizar brevemente, Bahía Blanca es una ciudad de tamaño medio que está ubicada en la provincia de Buenos Aires, República Argentina, que tiene como particularidad ser un nodo regional. Tiene una importante infraestructura de transporte y de conectividad, y a su vez es una ciudad que ofrece servicios educativos, servicios de salud, una amplia zona de influencia, y es sede de autoridades político-administrativas. En cuanto a algunos resultados encontrados y que destacamos del informe de la Asociación de Hoteles de la República Argentina, son poco auspiciosos en línea con reconocer indicios que nos permitan identificar a la crisis de COVID como una oportunidad para innovar. Antes de la reapertura del turismo, esto es en agosto de 2020, el 46% de los empresarios hoteleros consideraba probable su cierre definitivo frente a la continuidad de la pandemia y las medidas restrictivas. El 35% de los hoteles encuestados declaró no poseer capital de trabajo, y el 54% declaró tener autonomía de a 1 a 3 meses. Entre las medidas adoptadas por los hoteles antes de la reactivación del turismo en la época de verano, no se encuentran medidas tendientes a la renovación de software, hardware o capacitación del personal. Por el contrario, el 94% de los hoteles declaró que adhería al programa de ayuda estatal para pagar sueldos, suspendió personal. El personal y capital humano es un factor clave de innovación en el sector hotelero, y suspensión también de inversiones programadas. En cuanto a esta pregunta también da un indicio de las posibilidades o no que ofrece la pandemia para innovar. Se le preguntó a los encuestados a nivel nacional si contaban con infraestructura, equipamiento y protocolos para poder operar de manera segura una vez que se reabra la actividad turística. El 85% indicó que sí contaba con equipamiento, y el 95% con infraestructura. También son indicios que no hay una vocación dentro del marco de la pandemia COVID por invertir en nuevo equipamiento. En cuanto a la revisión de las medidas adoptadas a nivel gubernamental, nacional, al igual que en otros países, en Argentina se diseñaron políticas y medidas gubernamentales para mitigar los efectos de la pandemia: ayudas monetarias, suspensión del pago de servicios públicos y demás, un programa de viaje que fue muy exitoso o que continúa actualmente para el fomento de la demanda de turismo interno, pero no se evidencian medidas gubernamentales asociadas a el mediano plazo, a nuevo funcionamiento del turismo, oportunidades para innovar, para digitalizar el sector. En cuanto a la información que recopilamos de los hoteleros locales, la encuesta es un poco más extensa porque pregunta tanto el perfil innovador pre-pandemia. En esta ponencia mostramos lo que declararon los hoteleros locales durante la pandemia y el bloqueo de las actividades turísticas. En realidad los hoteleros señalaron que estaban abocados a reformas menores para cumplir el protocolo y el distanciamiento físico de las personas. No planean adquirir ni comprar a corto plazo ni nuevo equipamiento, ni hardware, ni software, ni capacitar a su personal. No perciben a la crisis COVID como una oportunidad para innovar. Las respuestas dadas por los encuestados refieren más a supervivencia, que a la realización de inversiones asociadas a la innovación. Y me parece importante destacar que, si bien no forma parte de esta ponencia, cuando se les preguntó por el comportamiento previo a la crisis, estos hoteleros, salvo aquellos que forman parte de una cadena hotelera de origen nacional y alcance nacional, los hoteles bajo estudio no presentan un comportamiento innovador muy dinámico. No capacitan a sus empleados en gran medida, ni están al tanto de nuevas tecnologías y demás. Como comentario final o modo de síntesis final, y de forma preliminar, tanto la información consultada a nivel nacional como la recopilada a nivel local no muestran indicios de que el COVID pueda, o que la crisis COVID, perdón, pueda ser un disparador a la innovación. De todos modos, hay ciertos factores externos que pueden inducir a la innovación, como la recuperación del turismo interno, la posibilidad de acceso a ciertas tecnologías de bajos costos, como por ejemplo el uso de apps, uso de código QR, sensores de calidad de aire, adopción de software de gestión. Algunas estrategias evidenciadas, un bajo porcentaje de hoteles encuestados a nivel nacional indicó que optó por el servicio takeaway para la prestación de servicios de restauración y la ayuda gubernamental, pueden ser factores externos que contribuyan a considerar la pandemia como oportunidades para innovar. De todos modos, hay factores internos a los hoteles que quizás estén operando en detrimento de esta oportunidad para innovar, como por ejemplo rigideces organizacionales o poca intención por parte de los hoteleros para adquirir nueva tecnología. Y esto es todo. Muchas gracias por la atención.
Thank you, Carolina. It's a very interesting topic. Now I'd like to call, I don't know, it's Carolini who's gonna comment, or Professor Carolini? Okay, so Carolini, I'd like to
dar. Gracias, Carolina. Tu trabajo es como en el Brasil en términos de las tecnologías de innovación post-COVID en medio de hospedaje, especialmente los hoteles. Acá tenemos también un crecimiento con relación a hostels, Airbnb, más medios de hospedaje con menos cuartos y unidades habitacionales. Pero la innovación tiene que abranger también los servicios. Acá entendemos que la pandemia trae la innovación también en términos de seguridad, que es muy importante para los hóspedes. ¿Sí? Gustaría de te preguntar cómo es la en Argentina con relación a las clasificaciones, si tuvieron más duras, digamos así, o menos duras y más flexibilización de las personas con términos de reservas, con términos de adaptación a los cuartos y con relación a toda la gobernanza de hospedaje. ¿Sí? ¿Usted consiguen trabajar con las clasificaciones en términos internacional o tenían que hacer nuevas adaptaciones a matrices de clasificación hotelera, por ejemplo?
No sé si respondo exactamente a la pregunta, pero para la elaboración de la encuesta y el relevamiento seguimos en términos de innovación las clasificaciones que se encuentran en la literatura, que es la clasificación schumpeteriana de la innovación, innovación de producto, proceso, mercado y organizacional. Y en cuanto a la adaptación que hicieron los hoteles, tenemos únicamente la información que pudimos recopilar de los hoteleros locales de la ciudad de Bahía Blanca, hoteleros de 3 y 4 estrellas, que son únicamente 6 hoteleros. No podemos a partir de eso hacer ninguna generalización estadística. Y los hoteleros declararon que en realidad solamente estaban adquiriendo cartelería, señalización para señalizar los lugares comunes, cumplir con los aforos. No se evidencia, como muestran otros estudios a nivel de países desarrollados. Vuelvo a insistir, quizás por tratarse del contexto de Bahía Blanca, que es una ciudad de tamaño medio. Quizás en Bariloche, que es un centro urbano que recibe turismo internacional, la situación es distinta. Pero no se encontraban en situación de innovar, de incluir, por ejemplo, sensores de aire en las habitaciones.
De otras cosas.
Solamente lo que manifestaron, al menos lo que se manifestó en esa encuesta que fue antes de la apertura, es readecuación mínima de los espacios comunes a lo exigido por el protocolo y de aforos. Hay otra literatura a nivel de países desarrollados que indica, por ejemplo, que la disposición de tiempo libre por parte de los empleados de los hoteles en etapas de restricción de la actividad turística es un factor que indujo o que promocionó repensar el modelo de negocios en esos hoteles. Sumado a la presión financiera. Fueron como dos disparadores de repensar el modelo de negocios. Eso, al menos en el centro urbano donde nosotros hicimos el relevamiento, no se evidenció.
No, a mí me gustaría solamente hacer un comentario o una pregunta, porque con la pandemia ha surgido la oportunidad de transformarse los emprendimientos más chicos con la tecnología para que se tornen, por su agilidad, puedan trabajar más fuerte que los grandes emprendimientos. La curiosidad que tengo yo, Carolina, es si ustedes tuvieron la curiosidad de averiguar si hay alguna correlación entre el perfil estratégico de los gerentes, el perfil estratégico de los dueños de negocios, antes y ahora, durante la pandemia. ¿Tuvieron esta curiosidad o no?
Sí, sí, la curiosidad está presente. Este trabajo justamente tiene la limitación que no tenemos una encuesta con un gran número de observaciones para poder establecer correlaciones. Pero sí, la curiosidad entre el perfil, el tipo de estructura, si se trata de un hotel familiar, si no es familiar, si está afiliado a una gran cadena internacional o no, o pertenece a una cadena, es clave. Lo único que podemos decir de este estudio de caso es que de los 6 hoteles que tiene Bahía Blanca, hay 3 que pertenecen a cadenas hoteleras de origen y alcance nacional. Y hay 2 de esos hoteles que pre-pandemia, por ejemplo, adoptaron un software de gestión y el management que resulta innovador para el contexto de la ciudad. Es un software que permite implementar tarifas dinámicas, cambiar la tarifa a medida que cambia la oferta y la demanda hotelera de forma continuamente, en el tiempo. Eso nos llamó la atención. Y detectábamos que quizás la pertenencia a una cadena, una estructura organizativa más compleja, quizás había sido un factor que promocionó ese tipo de adopción. Pero al ser 6 hoteles nada más es un estudio descriptivo. Nos encantaría por ahí extender la encuesta y establecer correlaciones. Poder hacer correlaciones y hacer alguna diferencia estadística.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias por los comentarios y las preguntas.
Okay, thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Carolina and Professor Eder. So I'd like to thank all the authors of this section. It was a very interesting one. And all the commenters also, we had very good discussions. Now I'd like to go to Professor Ozidis. He will present the next, he will be the chair of the next section. We end up late a little bit, so we won't have the coffee break. We'll skip it and go directly to the next section. So Professor Ozidis, are you here?
Yeah, Mariana, how are you? Thank you.
Good, and you?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So as Mariana mentioned, we are not going to have the coffee break because we are running out of time. So let's go ahead for our presentation, the last session. So welcome all the authors of this last session and the commenters. So we're going to have 3 papers. The first one is development of journalism in Bahia Blanca, Argentina, an opportunity in the post-COVID context. The second one is entrepreneurship success in the face of COVID, the case of cultural tourism destinations, Guanajuato, Mexico. And the third one, traveling without leaving home, co-creating value on our Airbnb platform during the COVID-19 COVID-19 pandemic. So let's go ahead, without further delay, go ahead to move on the first paper, Development of Tourism in Bahia Blanca. The authors are Daniela Melissa Gambarotta and Sylvia London. Who is going to present?
Good morning.
Hello,
I will
Sylvia.
present the I will present the paper. I will ask you. I'm sorry because the presentation is in Spanish. The speaker was Daniela, but she has a problem, a familiar problem, unexpected familiar problem, and so I will present the paper.
Okay,
I will
Sylvia,
make
so just
sorry?
10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I share?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I will make a very short presentation. This is our work. I'm sorry. I will make the presentation in Spanish because I will go quickly. Este trabajo lo que intenta analizar es la posibilidad de desarrollar turismo termal en la ciudad de Bahía Blanca. En la presentación anterior, Carolina estuvo haciendo una descripción del tipo de ciudad que es Bahía Blanca, por lo tanto, esto ahorra un poco la descripción del lugar. Bahía Blanca no es una ciudad que en este momento tenga turismo termal, lo que nos lleva a hacer alguna exploración desde dos puntos de vista. Por un lado, desde el punto de vista de lo que es el desarrollo territorial y el desarrollo económico, y para esto lo que hacemos es una breve revisión bibliográfica sobre el concepto de desarrollo territorial que requiere un enfoque multidisciplinar y multiescalar. Para poder hacer este análisis, lo que nosotros miramos no solamente es, o lo que se mira desde el punto de vista de la literatura, es la capacidad económica, la calidad de vida de la ciudad en la que se pretende establecer estas metodologías de desarrollo regional, y fundamentalmente lo que tiene que ver con la sustentabilidad ambiental cuando uno se plantea una potencialidad de desarrollo sustentable. Estos son los elementos que uno analiza a la hora de abordar este tipo de problemáticas, es decir, analizar no solamente los elementos que posee el territorio y sus fortalezas para desarrollar esta estrategia de desarrollo, sino también, como vamos a ver más adelante, cuáles son algunas debilidades que puede presentar esta estrategia. Yendo puntualmente a lo que es el patrimonio termal, nosotros conocemos en el área de desarrollo a partir del desarrollo económico a partir del turismo, la utilización de aguas termales que ha llevado a la transformación sustancial de muchas ciudades en destinos turísticos. En Argentina podemos mencionar una cantidad importantísima, una de las provincias más que más desarrollo tiene es Entre Ríos, en este tipo de estrategia de desarrollo territorial. Yendo específicamente al caso que nos ocupa, lo que se analiza, y también en otras presentaciones lo han mostrado, es cómo la actividad turística a partir del COVID y a partir de las medidas de aislamiento que tuvo el COVID ha tenido una cierta transformación a la hora de los turistas elegir sus destinos. Básicamente sabemos que desde el año pasado hay un nuevo modelo de políticas turística en Argentina muy importante, donde se realiza la promoción del turismo doméstico, también la preservación del medio ambiente, la flexibilidad en cancelación de viajes, políticas sanitarias y protocolos. todo esto que ya mencionaron en trabajos anteriores. Bueno, esto no me voy a detener acá porque esto ya lo vieron, esta es la localización geográfica de la ciudad de Bahía Blanca y la accesibilidad vial. Bahía Blanca es una ciudad que está muy bien conectada. Básicamente, es como decía Carolina en la presentación anterior, es una ciudad intermedia donde hay mucho comercio y también los hoteles son ocupados en muchos casos por trabajadores que vienen a las distintas zonas industriales de la ciudad de Bahía Blanca, pero está rodeada de algunos destinos turísticos con características muy importantes para la Argentina. Esto hace que tenga una accesibilidad no solamente vial, sino también aérea, y ahora nuevamente se recuperó la conexión del tren muy significativa. Yendo a lo que es, bueno, esto es lo que les decía recién, ¿no? Que es una actividad de paso, es una ciudad de paso, perdón, con un avance en turismo receptivo. Una característica importante es que en los últimos años también se ha hecho turismo asociado al turismo de congresos y convenciones, siendo que Bahía Blanca tiene una de las universidades nacionales más importantes de la Argentina, está entre las 10 más importantes de la Argentina. También eventos deportivos, viajes corporativos y demás, y actualmente con un desarrollo bastante interesante en la actividad cultural. Es cierto que estos acontecimientos se vieron todos profundamente suspendidos en la actividad, como en la mayoría de los países con el COVID. Yendo concretamente al recurso Telmar bahiense, es interesante destacar que Bahía Blanca se encuentra emplazada sobre la cuenca de Bahía Blanca, o la Napa del Norte, que tiene agua potable surgente a una temperatura entre 55 y 60 grados, con una extensión muy amplia que se estima entre 8.000 y 10.000 kilómetros cuadrados, con características muy interesantes para estas aguas termales, que son inodoras, incoloras, con presencia de sulfatos, cloruros, calcio, sílice, sodio, flúor. Actualmente las aguas se usan tanto para consumo humano, de hecho hay algunas canillas de libre acceso en las que uno puede ir a recoger agua termal para beber, se usan para uso industrial y también medicinal. Hay un centro de rehabilitación en Bahía Blanca que utiliza estas aguas termales. Esto nos lleva a una de las propiedades importantes de las aguas, que son las propiedades terapéuticas que tienen estas aguas termales. En Bahía Blanca además hay una serie de pozos que se relevaron en un trabajo de Gambarota y Leonardi del 2016, que pueden recuperarse. Estos pozos se encuentran localizados e identificados. Algunos tienen algunas desventajas, como la obturación, la inexistencia de terrenos para obras. Algunos están cerrados, pero están en buen estado. Otros están parcialmente obturados, otros están clausurados por bajo rendimiento, pero en líneas generales todos los pozos tienen alguna posibilidad de recuperarse, y esto plantea una ventaja interesante. Por otro lado, a ver si puedo correr esto, es importante destacar, de hecho, con la coautora conversábamos, ella es mucho más joven que yo, pero yo le recordaba que estas aguas termales se han usado para calefaccionar edificios y toda la galería comercial principal de Bahía Blanca. Es decir, han tenido en el pasado un uso bastante fuerte, y actualmente como es un recurso que, como señalé, que no está siendo aprovechado. ¿Cuáles son las fortalezas que tenemos en esta ciudad para desarrollar el termalismo: la disponibilidad de agua termal en toda la ciudad, una localización estratégica, centro de escala hacia otros destinos turísticos. Bahía Blanca es un nodo de comunicaciones, como mencioné anteriormente. Tiene algunos atractivos turísticos que se están desarrollando cada vez más en cuanto a lo cultural. Tiene disponibilidad de profesionales como para hacer centros de salud y centros de spa, de turismo de spa y de salud muy significativos, y la existencia de estos pozos que son factibles de reactivar. Todo esto lleva en conjunto con lo que significa el cambio en las preferencias de los turistas a partir de lo que es la pandemia. O sea, desde el punto de vista de la demanda, uno encuentra que hay una demanda creciente por turismo local y una demanda que además abarca todos los niveles económicos, lo que llevaría a poder realizar emprendimientos de envergadura y que posicionen a la ciudad en un centro de termalismo, de aguas termales muy significativo. Desde el punto de vista del desarrollo, esto sería una fuente de empleo directo e indirecto. También reactivaría lo que es la actividad de construcción, y además podría fortalecer y generar y fortalecer una imagen de marca turística de la mano del termalismo. Esto acompañado con un poco lo que se habló en la presentación anterior, es el desarrollo de los sectores hoteleros, gastronómicos, que en este momento están en una expansión muy importante, y culturales de la ciudad. Obviamente que este tipo de desarrollo va a ser factible si se realiza en una planificación concertada con las autoridades municipales, si se puede realizar una adecuada gestión, y además si esto va de la mano con una participación activa de la población residente. El próximo paso es hacer un análisis, o sea, en el trabajo lo que hacemos es una exploración de las posibilidades de establecer un desarrollo territorial en base al termalismo, y el próximo paso es analizar la factibilidad económica mediante un análisis de proyecto de inversión integral que también considere el impacto ambiental, es decir, no solamente desde el punto de vista privado, sino también desde el punto de vista social, y en esa dirección van los futuros desarrollos. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Silvia. Now I want to go to Bahía Blanca to see these wonderfuls. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna pass the word to Sandro Medeiros for him to make his comments. Sandro, please.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Let me open my camera. Okay, I think we can go without camera. Silvia, nice to meet you. Congratulations for the work.
Thank
you and Daniela. I noticed that your work, it's a diagnosis, right? It's
yes.
You used as an exploratory, but essentially as a diagnosis for the possibility to thermalism in Bahía Blanca. I would like to ask you why you didn't put the weaknesses factor, then you use the complete analysis of SWOT analysis, you know, You use opportunities, okay. You use the strength analysis, but what about the weaknesses and the threats to complete the whole diagnosis? It's a just for to help you for later studies. And I'd like to ask you, what does it mean, the post-COVID-19 context, as we are talking about, everyone in this section? I think it's a context that we are still formulating, and what you and your associate think about what is it, this post-COVID-19 context. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandro, for your comments. The main weaknesses will be the economic project, because to develop the thermalism, we need a entrepreneur that make this investment to develop thermalism. And the question is why this entrepreneur is not present today. I think that we need a planification. I don't know. I don't know what is the main the strategy to develop this activity. We need someone that invests in this activity. This is the main weakness. The opportunity is here. We need the money. And I'm sorry. The other comment was I can't remember.
About the matrix. About the matrix.
About the matrix.
Yeah, because
actually it was about what does it mean post-COVID-19 context. What does mean this? Whatever.
Well,
this concept. And about the matrix, it's why not to include in this study and the diagnosis, the whole SWOT analysis, including. But you okay. Just answer it now. I understand.
Okay. Yes, we will include this. Yes.
Okay, Sylvia, thank you so much. Thank you, Daniela, too. Thank you, Sandro, for your comments. So let's move on because we're running out of time, and let's see the next paper. So the next paper is gonna be Entrepreneurship Success in the Field of COVID, the case of cultural tourism destination, Guanajuato, Mexico. The authors are Jeremy Held and Larry Arthur Bianto from Mexico. Who's gonna present, please?
I'm going to present. My name's Jeremy. So hello, Jeremy. Can I put my presentation up?
Just click on share screen, the middle of the screen, the green button.
Sure.
10 minutes, please, Jeremy.
Okay. Just trying to make it bigger. There we are. Okay. So, uncovering success factors among independent entrepreneurs of cultural tourism destination Guanajuato. Okay, that's the subject. And if you don't know Guanajuato, that's what it looks like. It's a kind of like pretty place, historical place, mining originally, silver, gold, and it's a cultural heritage place right now. So, So the subject is kind of cultural tourism. We know what that is. It's different to sand, sun, and the beach. Okay, and we're talking about entrepreneurship profiles and independent entrepreneurs. So we're not talking about the big hotel chains and the restaurants. Okay, we're talking about smallish independent entrepreneurs. Guanajuato is quite a visited place. You know, they usually 2.5 million people visit. And there's another town just down the road, which I call SMA, which is San Miguel de Allende, which is also a heritage site. And it's a sort of like the competitor. And basically what happened in 2020 is that tourism completely nosedived. So we can see officially there's only a third of the tourists arriving in Guanajuato. No, it's interesting to see that they're kind of like a mixture of overnighters and day trippers. They come from different places. Right now, it's really concentrated on local visitors, but in the past, it was more sort of like people from the rest of the country and even international tourists. They're a young crowd, they're university educated, and they're coming for culture. It looks like at least quite a big proportion, though not the last year. Okay, so we're interested in success factors and constraints. More success factors, in fact, than constraints, because, you know, like most people fail with businesses, 9 out of 10. So it's interesting to know why that 1 out of 10 kind of like is successful. So we're sort of concentrating more on success factors rather than constraints. And we're mixing it in with sort of the crisis management literature, which comes from the sort of international crisis 2008, and right now in COVID, lots of people are writing papers about that too. So we created a survey instrument based on some INEGI instruments initially, and it's a sort of multiple choice kind of mainly. It's a long interview, 90+ questions, mainly was carried out in person. And we offered the online option as well, which not many people took, because it's a long interview. And we interviewed a load of people, you know, from hotels, hostels, Airbnbs, restaurants, coffee bars, roof bars, everything, the whole shebang, basically. I'm not going to go through the sort of blow by blow kind of profile of, you know, who we talked to and what they said, but basically, looking at the reaction to COVID, there was a huge decline in sales. Most places closed up for, you know, a short space of time. You know, sales down 83%. And now they've bounced back to about 60%. And what they did was a whole load of things, you know, based on their premises and the products and services, on the marketing, on the routines, on the employees, operations, finance. They kind of like carried out a large number of sort of changes, often out of desperation, you know, just to see, well, what's going to work? What can we do in this kind of situation? So we talked about lots of things as well, success-based things like, why did they start up? You know, who are they? Why did they start up? Often there's a family history there, but basically lots of them say it's kind of passion. Passion was like a big thing about starting up. So they kind of love what they do. Okay. Often they're kind of like families of people who have nice buildings in the center of town, you know, so they've converted those into restaurants and into hotels and such like. That's just a map saying that all those things I mentioned, they did loads and loads of, made loads of reactions. Okay. So they use family savings to start up often. They didn't use banks. They don't use banks. They try and do everything without using the banking system, because the banking system has, you know, crazy interest rates and lots of commissions. So basically, they avoid banks like the plague, right? Which is interesting. They employ average 16 people, although 6 people medium, split between males and females. Who are these entrepreneurs? 2/3 of them are men, 1/3 of them are women. They're kind of youngish, they're university educated, they often have their own homes, so they're sort of firmly middle upper class people. Okay, and especially because of COVID, they've moved very heavily into online stuff. So, you know, they've all got the web pages, they all do Google Maps, search engines, they all use Facebook, they all use Instagram, they use WhatsApp. Everybody's in TripAdvisor, and 40%, mainly the hotels, are heavily into online, you know, like travel agents. Okay. Their sales, as I said, went hugely down. Okay, we went into the meaning of success quite a lot because we wanted to know, you know, why they're doing this. Is it sort of like for a pecuniary, money interests, or is it other interests? And basically, most of them say they do it for stakeholder satisfaction, right? And they want to grow, and they want to contribute to society, and they want personal satisfaction, although there is a profit motive in there as well. It's probably stronger than they like to say because no one likes to talk about money, you know? Most of them are pretty formal. Okay, so what are our questions? Well, how do we define success? Is it financial, or is it different things? There is a problem as well measuring that success, because a lot of these entrepreneurs have, you know, quite a lot of sort of family wealth beforehand. So when we measure how well they're doing, we have to be careful of separating out, you know, that they're university educated. Some of them have some interesting real estate to convert into tourism. Okay, the other thing is, how related are those different success factors? And we've got loads of success factors there. We've got, you know, success factors like number of employees, sales, opportunity cost of keeping the business opening, what's their alternative income that they would desire to close investments, number of employees. So, you know, how much they value their business. So we've got lots of success measures, and we wanted to know was how much of those success factors related. And the other interesting factor is, of course, their reactions to COVID. Are they related to success? Are successful entrepreneurs the people who react to COVID with, you know, like lots of innovations or changes to their business, no? And of course, other things, you know, what's the impact of age, what's the impact of sex, and other factors. And what we basically found, I'm not going to do a blow-by-blow account here. First of all, the correlations aren't fantastic. They go between 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7 at the most. And what we're finding here is that there is a nice kind of relationship between how successful these entrepreneurs are and their reactions to COVID. So we find that the people who are more successful with their businesses in terms of income, in terms of their firm value, in terms of their cost of opportunity salary, they're the people who are doing most kind of like reactions and most changes in marketing, employees, and in all sorts of things. And so that's kind of like an interesting idea that perhaps we can see innovation happening in COVID and other shocks. You know, it's like, makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If we have shocks, that people start innovating, because it's when we have shocks, perhaps, that people get their acts together and try different things.
Jeremy,
and
please, 10 minutes.
Okay,
so,
and we're seeing that, right. So other highlights, women are pretty successful. Entrepreneurial experience is kind of related in there as well. Okay, so basically, if we conclude, the success indicators are correlated. The different COVID reactions are also correlated, and the two things are correlated together, you know, so success and reactions to COVID go together. Perhaps women have been more successful as well. Okay, and people are really industrious and work hard. They seem to have more success as well. Okay, so that's basically my presentation. So anybody got any questions? Let's take them.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Nice work. I have to say that I'm gonna use your work in my discipline of entrepreneurship, because these results are very interesting. and talks to other studies that we have seen this morning here. So thank you so much. I'm gonna call Daniela, but Daniela is not there. Sylvia, please.
Yes, Daniela is not there. Very nice work, Jeremy. Really, I enjoy this lecture. I have only a question. If you think that correlation has have the expected result, I think, but maybe do you think to make some qualitative analysis to complement this this effect post-COVID?
Yeah, actually, just before I put all the kind of the correlations up, and that's just like the first step, right? But we did go through a whole sort of analysis in kind of like of all the questions. So we did the qualitative analysis first, and saw what all the effects were on everybody and what everybody's doing. So we did do a qualitative analysis, and then just kind of like yesterday and the day before, we started getting some kind of like correlation results. Larry Bianto's doing the number crunching, and we might even try and do some econometrics, although the correlations in the right direction, they're interesting, but they're not that strong. And probably the reason is because there's such a varied group of entrepreneurs, like there's larger entrepreneurs, smaller ones, there's everything from Airbnb to, like hotels and restaurants. So it's a real mixed bag. But yes, we did do initially quite a lot of kind of qualitative analysis.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Jeremy, and all the authors. Thank you, Sylvia and Daniela. So let's see the last, but not least, paper of our first day of WES. So the last paper is going to be Traveling Without Leaving Home, Co-Creating Value on Airbnb Platform During the COVID-19 Pandemic, from the authors Sandro de Medeiros, Rina Ricci Cagnati, Jay Lazy Oliveira, and Alexa Sampaio. Who is going to present, please?
Me. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Rina.
Good morning.
10 minutes, please.
Okay. Well, just a moment.
No problem.
Run out of my screen. I cannot catch it anymore.
just stop the sharing and start it again.
Okay, but the whole thing came out of my screen.
Yes, exactly. You have to touch the top, and then you see stop sharing with the mouse.
I'm sorry. I cannot do it.
You have to touch the top of the screen with the mouse, and then it's gonna go down a small screen where you can touch, and I'm gonna stop sharing. Romulo, please stop sharing the screen of Rina for her to restart.
Thank you.
So you open the file you want to present, and then you share this file.
Okay. I think this is okay.
Yes, now it's okay. So just put it in full screen.
Sorry everyone about that. Well,
no problem.
The traveling without leaving
Rina,
home.
just put it in full screen, please, for us to see.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's okay.
Well, the Traveling Without Leaving Home, Co-Creating Value on the Airbnb platform during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a paper written by Professor Sandro de Menezes from University Federal of Alagoas, me and Laís from University of São Paulo, and Alexa Sampaio. This is regards to Airbnb online experience, which is an innovative business model that arose from this COVID-19 pandemic on April last year. It's a value co-creation process between guests and hosts, and the benefits they get from it is the authenticity in virtual environments. And the maximum time of these experiences is 2 hours. The slogan the Airbnb promotes these experiences is travel the world from home. And the objective, our objective was to identify practices among clients and hosts from Airbnb online experiences and the results coming from co-creation. The co-creation is a sum of psychological events tourists go through when contributing actively through participation in activities and interacting with other subjects in the experience environment. The value that emerges, the value from these experiences emerges from an active process in which different actors work together to create benefits for themselves and for the others through the integration of resources. And the customer dominant logic has basically 6 values. The affective value regards to emotions and feelings, the social value regards to the image that other groups perceive the services, the functional value is the utility or the performance perceived by this, the customer, and the network value regards to the participation of the customer in groups, possibly they can create a new value in these groups, they collaborate with new ideas or something like that. The epistemic value regards to the utility perceived, for example, novelty or curiosity, some kind of utility perceived from this experience. And the conditional values depends, like the word says itself, depends on a seasonal specific situation, or like a celebration, like Christmas time, or a circumstantial experience that happens in a specific moment, seasonal moment. We made these methods arose from this question, which is the research problem question. What are the users, the clients and hosts, practice by the Airbnb online experience that co-create value? It was a qualitative approach. We identified in the online experiences from Airbnb 17 categories. We selected by language, price, months. We took from these categories, we identified 3 categories that related directly to tourism, which were the art experience, entertainment, history, and culture. And we selected the categories that had at least 20 reviews. I mean, we selected 20 reviews from these categories that had at least 50 comments or 50 reviews. And altogether we got 705 reviews altogether. And we did a text mining and put in the Voz Viewer to make this. One of the results was this map I'm showing here. The map, as we can see, it's put in 5 clusters, and as we can see, we see the tourists regards these experiences like fun, or divertida, which is fun in Portuguese. They mention a lot of the word personally, which is they feel like they are in the place in person. They mention a lot name of the hosts, as we can see, Diego and Diego here. Let me see, another Roberto, Gabi. They mention also the place of the experience is held in. They say interesting, the visit is interesting. They mention also a lot of saying that it was a fun experience. They learned from it. They were connected to it. They felt like they were immersed in the experience. And to conclude, they felt, these virtual tourists, as we are calling them, they felt like they were in new places, and they interact really with these new cultures. They identified tourism in this interaction, and even on an online platform, they feel close to the place and to the host. Always, as I said, always calling him or her by their first name. And the customer dominant logic stood out in the online experiences practice because they generate value in use, which is the entire process got from the experience and interaction between customers and supplier. And these reviews also serve to plan more for other tourist experiences according to the needs of guests and virtual tourists. Thank you.
Thank you, Rina. Thank you, all the authors. So I'm going to pass the word to Jeremy for him to make his comments. Please, Jeremy.
Hi, I've got a question, and the question is, what's going to happen to this online experience, this co-production, this co-creation, if and when COVID sort of recedes? Do you think it will survive, or is it just a product which is like, okay, what on earth are we going to do? Let's do something. Is it just going to die when COVID finishes?
Yes, from the comments we had gathered, we perceived that these experiences will last because many of the people feel like they are, many of them feel like they want to visit the place personally in the future. They mention it a lot. I want to see this place in the future. I saw it virtually, but I feel like going to visit. But many of them, we noticed that they cannot go to the place. And it's an opportunity that they have now to visit the place with somebody feeling that they are in that place in that moment. So that's why I think it will still last for a long time. I think so. It will last for a long time.
Just one more question, Rina. Can you find out anything about the profile of the people who get in contact, the tourists, the visitors, or with the type of Airbnbs? Do you have any information on that or not?
No, we don't have much information on the Airbnb online platform regarding this personal. Sometimes we can imagine which are the sex of the person, but it's a difficult task because we only got from the comments and the reviews, and we did not enter in this this matter. But we get in contact with these people, but it's going to be a little bit difficult. What is important to mention is that these experiences are authentic, because the people that leave these comments, they really had the experience, because it's different from when we get reviews from TripAdvisor, for example, when you can have some reviews that maybe you can have a doubt if the person really got that experience. But this experience, whatever they have written in these reviews, is really genuine, honest, I can say, because they really feel like after they had the experiences and then they leave the review, the comments. And most of them, they were very, very happy to have this experience.
Okay, really interesting. Let's go back to Osiris.
Sure.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your comments. Thank you, Rina, and all the authors for all the presentations. So we are getting to the end of this first day of the first day of WS. And I'd like to thank all the authors and all the presenters and commenters and all the audience, and also the organization committee. A special thank to Romulo, who is giving us support to do all this. And tomorrow we are going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, Brazil time. So pay attention and have a nice day. We stay here. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, have a nice day.
Bye.
Have a nice day, people. Ciao.
See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you.